Hello, hello, hello. It's Stephanie here from Rent to Rent Success, and I'm not on my own today. I am joined by the lovely Mark Fitzgerald from Podlet. Hey, Mark.
Hi, how's it going? All right.
Good, thank you. And you're coming to us live and direct all the way from
Sunny South Yorkshire.
sunny South Yorkshire. Okay, that is fantastic. Now, Mark has been super successful. Mark joined us in Kickstarter just at the start of February and already now has hit us with
Nine.
9 HMOs. And you've got more coming on. Is that right?
Yep, I'm actually in negotiations for another 6.
Crazy.
And I have a meeting tomorrow with a landlord who has another 4.
Wow. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, isn't that crazy?
Busy times.
Yeah. So what I've asked Mark to come on, Mark was in the Rent to Rent Kickstarter Facebook group. That's the private group for people who are on the program. And he said that he's got his own little 5 things that he looks for in an HMO. And I know that that's one of your burning questions, many of you, is what to look for when you go to a viewing for a rent-to-rent HMO. So Mark, let's chat and tell us about your 5 things. Tell us about number 1.
Well, I mean, I put it all together and everything, just basically because when you send your letters out and everything, it's you don't always know the areas exactly or the exact streets that landlords are going to ring you up for. So, I mean, you could actually be looking at a certain area, but a landlord could have a property in a different area. So I just sort of put these 5 points together for that. So number 1 is just really is the area. You've got to know your areas. You've got to have a look at your areas. If I'm not 100% sure of the area, I just take a drive around, have a walk around, get a feel for it. Your gut tells you whether it's an area you think it's going to work. But it's very, very important with a multi-let to get the right street, the right area, or you could end up with a property that becomes very difficult to let. And your streets as well. One street can be a brilliant street, but you can walk around a corner, you can go into another street that's renowned for being a bad street. So I think by walking around it and getting to know the areas in particular, it's a very strong point. So it's one of the most important points. That's why it's my point number 1.
Fantastic. Loving that. Totes agree. And that's why it's good when you're starting out anyway to have properties that are near you, because you kind of know the areas in a different way to do properties that are far away. Okay, so what's your number 2 then, Mark?
It's property condition. So to be fair, always try and get a viewing. Never give a quote out or guaranteed rent prices or anything without getting to the property, and have a good look around it as well. Make sure you check in cupboards, you're looking around, you check all the en-suites. If there's any restricted areas, just ask to look in them. If there's any particular reason why they won't let you look in them, then it can bring up flags. It can bring up question marks. And I don't really look to take on properties that have too much work needed. So decorating, yes, if I have to put furniture in it, that's fine. But I'm not about to put stud walls in. I'm not about to change the configuration of a property just to make it work on a rent-to-rent basis. Some people will, and that is fine. If you've got the funds and you don't mind doing it, as long as you get yourself a long contract, i.e. 5 years, because obviously you need time to get your money back out. But the overall condition can be quite a big factor. So make sure you get a viewing and check out the condition. And that's my point 2.
Fantastic, Mark. Well, a lot of people would agree with you on that because they're starting off on a tight budget as well, and they don't want any properties that need too much work. So can I ask you, Mark, if the landlord was going to pay, I know that that's not always the case, but if they were, would you consider it then managing the works to...
Yes. So everything's a negotiation. And I do feel, my point 3 is property layout. So the layout of a property is very important to me, that the rooms aren't too small, that, the communal areas are a good size, because there's nothing more than having a nice looking room, but it's a bit like a shoebox. So, if a landlord was happy to pay for the renovations, then yeah, I'll manage the renovations, and we'll basically say from the point that it's renovated up to, I will then manage it for 5 years after that, and they will get their property back in the condition that they've given it to me. So they invest in it, and I look after the investment for them.
That is super, super cool. So I sort of agree, and absolutely that's a fantastic strategy, but also you can sell on deals possibly to other people who are willing to put more money in. So as everybody knows, we have had properties that we've put a lot of money into, and we've also had properties that we've put no money into, and both types have worked really well for us. So I think sometimes there's more opportunity in the ones where nobody else will touch them with a barge pole, because, and in one case, was it, well, more than one case, the owner has paid for the works. So that's why I was asking that question. It was 2 huge buildings. One was 5 flats and one was 4 flats. And overall, it was £70,000 worth of work that was done on the flats. And the owner paid for that. We managed the works. And those flats have been amazing for us. They let out all day long. And we've got a fantastic relationship with the owner as well, and he's actually says that he would like to invest with us going forward in flips and things. So so it's worked out really well. So I think property condition definitely one to take into account, and if you don't have funds, remember you can also sell those deals on.
Yes, but don't ever be afraid to ask the landlord if they're willing to put some money into it, because at the end of the day, it's their asset, and if it's not let, that's their pain. They're not letting it for a reason. If they don't spend, or they're not willing to spend a bit of money on it, they'll never let the thing. So sometimes they just need you to say, well, if you do this, 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 and this, and it will probably only cost you this. Because a lot of people, when they look at renovations, can think, oh my God, it's going to cost an absolute fortune. It's going to cost me 10, 15, 20,000 pounds. But if you can actually go back to them and say, do you know what, we can get this looking like this for 8 grand. You put the 8 grand in, we'll get it let, I'll manage it for 5 years, and like I say, you'll get it back in exactly the same condition when it's finished. So your asset is looked after and it's let.
Fab. That's a really good point to note. Now, I know your point 3 because you already told us, but do you want to tell us again?
Yeah, it's just layout, really. I mean, there's been a lot of properties that I've looked at, and they're in a fantastic area. They're looking really, really, really good, but the layout's just doesn't sit right. So, I mean, for layout, for me, I like to have a good sized rooms. You can't always have good sized rooms, but I mean, if you've got rooms with en suites in that are a little bit smaller, you can sort of accept it because you've got your toilet area, your bathroom area. But if it's just in general, it's just a small house. You know, it hasn't got a proper like hallway when you're coming in, and it just feels pokey. That's going to put people, because that's your first impression, and that's the first impression that tenants are going to get when they walk in as well. And some might like it, some might think it's cozy, but it's not really for me. What I'm finding with my tenants is when they walk into a room and it's quite big and it's nice and bright as well. They walk in, ooh, it's quite a big room, and all of a sudden you've got them on side. You know, they're thinking to themselves, oh, hello, I like this. You know, it's like a little studio apartment of my very own, and all I've got to do is really share, you know, the bathroom on occasions and the kitchen. So the layout is very important. Make sure, you know, high ceilings are a good one as well. Even if the rooms are a little bit smaller, if the ceilings are quite high, that seems to work quite well. So yeah, layout's quite important to me, and making sure that everybody, you know, if it's a 5 or 6 bed or a 7 bed, that there's enough communal area and enough communal space for them to be able to sit down in the kitchen without disturbing anybody else. You know, might mind their own business, or they can chat to everybody and have it as a, you know, bit of a family chat or whatever they want. But it's having that space to be able to do so as well. So yeah, layout's very important.
That's great, Mark. You know, when you said share the bathroom on occasion, I was picturing more than one in the bath.
I'm reading the newspaper.
Oh dear. Yeah, okay. I'm totally with you on the layout and what you said. Absolutely. It needs to have a bit of, it just needs to have a good feel, the right kind of space. You know, a big enough kitchen, good sized bedrooms, you know, as you said, where possible. So, Mark, we're all waiting with bated breath. What is your number 4?
Well, obviously, I mean, these are in no particular order of importance and stuff, but tenant demand is number 4. You've got to have tenant demand. Do not be afraid of putting a dummy ad out on Spare Room to say coming soon. Don't say it's ready if you haven't got anything, because that is wrong. But if you say coming soon because you're looking for properties, and it will be coming soon because you're going to get your properties in these areas, put them out there and just say, would you like to be added to a waiting list? Is that okay? Ask their permission. If somebody comes back to you and says, yes, you're onto a winner, and just say, please message for more details. You're not lying, because this is exactly what you're trying to do, but you need to see if there is demand in that area. Make sure you've got a strong demand. So there's different types of strong demand. I mean, obviously you can put an ad out, you can be inundated day after day after day, or you might just get 2 or 3 in a week. What you have to do is really look at what's in the area, what's your tenant type, and sort of put your advert towards that tenant type. So if it's workers, put it down, it's a working house, we've got work, and advertise it as professionals. If it's professionals, school teachers, nurses, doctors and stuff like that, advertise it in a manner that suits the geographic of that area with the tenant, and then see what you get back. But don't be afraid to put them out there, but just put them out there in such a way that it actually, does stay coming soon. And then you can get the feedback. And it's also, that's a great way to be able to go to landlords and letting agents and say, I've got a demand, I'm looking for these properties, and it'll help you with your pitches as well.
That is golden. Yeah, absolutely. I think demand is a tricky one because it's an art rather than a science.
Yeah.
Because as you said, we're doing very well in our area and our occupancy is very high. I mean, for many years it was like at 100%. But now we have, more rooms. It's dropped down a bit, so sometimes 98, sometimes 99, but it's still very high. But we don't always have like millions of emails flooding the inbox. So we can't just sort of say, well, if you only get so many within a week replies, don't bother. Because there are weeks when you might only get so many replies, but then there are other weeks where you'll get a lot of replies. So
it's a bit like the time of the month. If it's mid-month, you might not get as much as you might get at the end of the month, because everybody then can look to move. Some people pay monthly and might be coming to the end of their agreement. Then, or it might be the other way around. In the middle of the month, they're looking because their agreements are coming up at the end of the terms. But also try different things as well. Don't just put one ad out and say, oh, that's not worked. Mix it up then, take it down, change it, put it back up, and just see. Because it took me a while to get my tenant type right. It took me 4 weeks actually, initially, of trying different adverts and different styles. But once you've got it in the area, like you say, Stephanie, then you can just tweak it. And you're going to have different occupancies. You can have different times of the month. But also, once you get a good idea, then at least when you get your property, or if you've already got properties, it's great. But once you get your property, you know exactly, I'll bang this ad out and I know that I'm going to get a response, rather than worrying about, oh, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? So you can sort of do your own sort of market research at the same time. But tenant demand is a very important one, I do think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what is your last one?
Profit. We're all in it to make a bit of money. At the end of the day, this is a business.
Love it.
So it's not all about massive amounts, but I do try and make sure that I get £100 per room. So on a 5-bed, you want to be making £500, 6-bed, £600, so on and so on. It's not the be all and end all, but it does help if you know what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept. Obviously, the landlord, it's got to be a win-win. It's got to work for the landlord. It's got to work for us. We are a business. We are providing a service. And, your first deal, you might not. Your first deal, you might make £80 per room, £85 per room, something like that. Don't sell yourself too short, but to get yourself on the ladder and to get yourself a property, don't just go on, £100. But mark my words, as you get more and more properties and you get more and more experience, you'll be looking at, 100, 130, making it work for.
Oh, Mark, you froze.
Go up.
He's back. You froze for a minute, but anyway, go on. You were just saying about you £85 a room.
Yeah. So I mean, when you start out, it could be £85. Don't not do your first deal or your first couple of deals just because it's below the £100 mark. If it works for you, do the deal. But make sure it does work for you. And if it doesn't, don't be afraid to walk away. There is always another deal around the corner. Trust me on that one, because I have walked away from lots and lots of deals, and it does play in the back of your mind. Am I losing the deal? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Simple as.
Exactly. And we all know that the landlords often do come back.
Yes.
Because sometimes they had unrealistic expectations and they did not realize how much the deal was actually costing them. So, if they were getting 2,000 gross when it's full, they can't see beyond 2,000. So there were some properties that we offered 800 on, which was a really good deal. And they refused. and didn't come back. And then eventually, after ages, said, no, we're going to keep managing it ourselves. And they did keep managing it themselves. But I then, while we were going through that process, I said, well, while you're managing it, just look at your costs, because I'm sure you'll be paying similar to what we would have been paying. But our costs also include a margin for management. And eventually they did come back, and they weren't all full. I can't remember how many were empty. I think it was 5 rooms were full out of 10 when we took over. So they weren't, I mean, they wouldn't have even been making the £1,600 a month between the two properties. They wouldn't have even been making that net after all the costs, and they still had all the hassle. They're actually getting less money in. So it makes me laugh sometimes when people say, oh, well, landlords are better off with a normal letting agent. Well, so many of our landlords were with a standard letting agent, promised them the world. I'm not saying obviously all, but most letting agents are not HMO specialist letting agents. Lots of my friends are letting agents, so they have a go at me. but not all letting agents are HMO specialist letting agents. And, you know, they're not able to keep the rooms full in the same way. It's actually too much work for them to do for the 10%. Is the long and short of it. They can't put the staff on it. They haven't got time to be labelling the kitchen cupboards and doing all the bits and pieces, buying special recycling bins and doing all the bits and pieces you need to do to really make it, you know, on point and really work. So that is brilliant, Mark, because I didn't ask Mark beforehand what his 5 things were. We just came straight on the call. But I had also written down my 5 things. And it totally overlapped. I'm going to do a recap in a minute, but before, I just want to add in one thing, and I think you might have thought about this within layout, but we haven't talked about it explicitly. But what's very important where we are as well is bathrooms, and specifically showers, because I don't know if you get this in Barnsley, Mark, but what happens here is people say, oh yeah, we've got 2 bathrooms, and what they mean is they've got a bathroom with a shower and like a bathroom with a bath in an HMO. Like it's 2 bathrooms. Like one of the properties we took over had 2 bathrooms between 8, which is not amazing. And one of them did not have a shower. And I just think that's like crazy talk.
Yeah, it is in a multi-let. Yeah, definitely.
So how does it play out in Barnsley? What is people's expectations with the bathrooms?
Well, I think you can't go more than 4 people sharing one bathroom, that's for sure. I always try as a rule of thumb not to go over 3, and anything below that's a bonus. I have got one property where it's a 5-bed and 4 share a shower bathroom. There's no bath in it actually, it's all just a shower. And it's all working guys, and they're quite happy. But personally, I'd keep it that way as well. You know, so if I get a void there and a lady wants, I do say, it's all guys, I do let them know. There's no point, otherwise you're wasting people's time. Guys seem to be all right with that. They go in, have a shower, and do the business and stuff like that, and that's fine. I wouldn't like to put a lady in that. I do prefer to steer them towards the ensuite rooms, because I just think it's nicer for them, obviously. But yeah, so back to the question. 3 really is a sort of a maximum per bathroom. You can get away with 4, but you may be limiting the type of tenants that you can have.
Definitely. I mean, we would totally agree. 3 as a max. We wouldn't normally go anywhere near 4, but we did actually wonder whether it would actually work, because that was the 8-bedroom HMO. It was going to have 2 showers put in. I mean, it already had 1 shower. One shower was being updated, and the other shower was being put into the bathroom. And the guy who had owned it, lovely guy, had never had more than 5 people in it. So we thought, well, actually, we might be the same. We don't know, because that was our 3rd property, so we didn't have so much experience then. And we thought, we don't know if this is going to work. But actually, the rent that we're paying is low enough that if it was lower occupancy because of the bathroom situation, we would be okay with it. And the rent was low because the guy was losing money hand over fist, over £1,000 a month, and had it for years. And it was really, he didn't know what to do. He tried a letting agent. He was losing even more money. But I'm going off the topic. But what I'm saying is it did work out with the 4, but only because it's a big house, huge lounge. The bedrooms are really big and quite nice, big kitchen, lovely garden. So I think that's why it kind of overall works. But that's our only property like that. We would always prefer to be 3 to a bathroom or less. We wouldn't even entertain the idea of taking on the 4 bed now with 1 bathroom, even though that property has worked out well for us. And a lot of the times the 4 beds with 1 bath, you actually couldn't put a bathroom anywhere because the house is too small. And it's like you were saying earlier, actually the house is a little bit too pokey for a 4-bed HMO. They were okay for when it used to be the student house shares where everyone knew each other, but they're not okay for 4 strangers sort of sharing.
Well, this is just it. If you've got students, you can get away with it because, you know, that's the sort of demographic that you have. They're all sharing a house in general, so they're all in and out each other's rooms anyway. So it's a proper house share, not a room. You know, it's not a room share.
Right. Well, thank you, Mark. I'm going to summarise for everybody now what we've talked about today, and these are in no particular order. The points to look for when looking at your rent-to-rent HMO. Number 1, location. You want to make sure that it is in a great location that's going to rent well. Number 2 is property condition. You want to think about whether you're going to prepare to do a big refurb if it's required, or whether you can get funding from alternative places like the landlord themselves. Number 3 is you want to look at the layout, the sort of the space and size of the rooms. Number 4, can you let it? What is the tenant demand like in that area? Will you be able to let that property consistently? 5, which leads on from that, is profit. The one we just added on is the bathrooms. You need to know that it's a good bathroom to ratio. We're saying not greater than 3 people to a bathroom, but in some areas and for some tenant types, 4 to 1 bathroom can work. So Mark, anything else you want to add about what you look for when you're getting an HMO?
I would say the main thing, it's not really looking for it, but it is, like you said, it's the follow-up. You know, make your offers and everything, but make sure you follow up, and just drop them, you know, a cheeky little message every now and again if you haven't heard anything. But no, that's it in general. You know, don't get me wrong. I think nearly everything you take on, you're going to have to decorate some way, shape or form. You can be I mean, I have taken on 2 that I didn't have to, which was very lucky. The rest of them, I've always given them a lick of paint, make them feel fresh. So, you know, but don't be put off by anything. Go in with an open mind, but have your own points. You know, have your own point check that you can go down and have a little look and say, I'm going to tick these off. Does it reach all these criteria? If it doesn't, don't be afraid to walk away. Yeah.
Brilliant advice. And Mark is one of the coaches on our Rent-to-Rent Kickstarter coaching program because he was absolutely killing it with, and now has got 9 deals with goodness knows how many more in the pipeline. So thanks, Mark, for joining us to talk about this. If you want to start your own Rent-to-Rent Kickstarter program success story, then you can click the link below and sign up for the free online training, the 5 secrets to rent success, which will give you an overview of this whole thing. Okay, so it's goodbye from Mark.
Bye-bye.
And goodbye from me. I will see you soon. Bye for now.
Cheers.